Welcome along, one and all, to the return of APPF1 Tier 2. You join us here at a soggy Interlagos for this season to get underway. We have a full grid of 20 drivers ready to take on this circuit, and we will see the opening skirmishes, the opening exchanges of this brilliant tier of APPF1. Can't wait to get it underway. So, if you're accustomed, I should say, to watching APP Tier 2, you're probably not too used to hearing my voice. Normally you'd be hearing Ghost. Sadly, he can't join me here tonight, but we should be able to run the show together from next week onwards, so that should be wonderful, and can't wait to get this underway. It is a rainy session, so that is going to, I imagine, throw the cat amongst the pigeons somewhat, but we'll see what happens when these drivers do eventually get themselves out on the track. Hello to Ghost, hello to Rick in the chat as well. Yeah, sorry we couldn't be together tonight, but hopefully the rest of the season is going to be glorious, as I'm sure this event that we're about to be treated to tonight is going to be as well. A bit of hesitation for a lot of these drivers heading out onto the track. I imagine rain was something that they potentially anticipated because, well, it's not exactly uncommon here at Interlagos, but drivers heading out onto the track, and yeah, I'm seeing in the Discord a lot of a few drivers at least a little bit apprehensive, shall we say, about racing in the rain. There's some drivers, of course, who love these conditions, others who aren't going to be too big on it. And it's going to get our first chance to see where everyone stands. We have a fantastic grid here. We'll explain it in more detail later on. We've got, I believe it's going to be 18 full-time drivers, but we managed to get a grid of 24 tonight with a couple of guys coming up from Tier 3, a couple of reserves stepping in for tonight. So we'll see how things are going to get on. So yeah, Interlagos in the rain. What kind of challenge is that going to provide? I'm quickly going to turn my audio down because that is rather loud indeed. I think just turn all the cards down. That should be a bit more manageable for my ears. So we're watching Josh the Guy here. We're going to get our first look really at how this track handles in these intermediate conditions. We'll see if the session evolves from here, but I doubt it's going to change all that much. Onto the brakes, having to bleed off the brakes a bit earlier, of course, try to avoid much locking. He gets into the apex very nicely of the Senna S. You can see him short shifting into fourth gear for traction on the way out, but in Curve of the Soul, the rear end of the car, just threatening to step away, just about managing to hold things all together to the end of the first sector. On to those brakes, getting it down into third gear. Watch for traction on exit again. He gets nicely on the throttle early though. Again, short shifting, heading out of Desira del Lago up towards Ferradura now. This corner nearly completely flat out in the dry. Not going to be near that at all though in the wet as he comes through Laranjina now towards a slow middle sector. The car drifts out to the outside, four-wheel lateral slides. He gets away with it though. No invalidation. He will carry on as he heads it round Pinarino. Always a tough traction zone. I believe he is running traction control, judging by how early he's able to get on the throttle, but he'll continue on out of Bico de Pato now, getting onto that throttle pedal. The track seems to fall away as you head around Mergulio on the way through there, keeping it nice and clean. 101 flat through the first two sectors. We'll see how that time compares to some of the rest of the drivers coming through later on. Now onto that overtake button, and all that battery that you've saved throughout the rest of the lap is going to be drained as you head up to the highest speeds you'll hit on the entire lap, well over 300 kilometers an hour. Up to the line, Josh the Guy gets this session kicked off with a 1:18.9. We'll see how that's going to stack up against other wet times. Of course, some drivers excel in these conditions. Some drivers do find themselves a little way off the pace. Just behind then, debutant in APPF1. I don't know if that's Uglap or Uglarp, but he comes up towards the line anyway. It's going to be a few seconds down, a 24.1. That period of adapting to the new conditions, that's going to be a bit of a challenge. Jackalacco heading through now, part of a team at McLaren that I think could be pushing for the constructors. He goes second on a 1:19.7. Yeah, there's a number of very strong teams in that debate over who's going to be the Constructors' Champion this season in Tier 2 has already been quite fierce. Of course, we're going to get the glorious APPF1 podcast out late, and I imagine in a couple of hours, so we'll see what our hosts of that podcast are going to say for who's going to win the Drivers and Constructors. The Constructors, though, is shaping up to be a pretty epic fight. There are, I would say, two teams that stand out for me, and that's McLaren and Red Bull. But there's a number of others, Ferrari, question marks maybe with Denko having a bit of a nerf, but we'll see. Those guys expect to go well. Again, a number of very strong teams. That Keck Sauer team could be very strong, as well as that Haas team. There's a number of teams that could be right up there, but headed up by Red Bull, I think, who come into this season as constructors' favourites. And this man, Yu-Home Hug, surely going to be up there in consideration for the Drivers' Championship, because, well, who could forget that incredible showing in the last Tier 2 race, and of course in Tier 1 as well, at the Austria Reverse layout. This is a very different kettle of fish here at Interlagos, but he set a 1:17.7 in this session and tracking very nicely. Of course, his teammate is the reigning champion of this division. He just barely saw off Sumo in the later phases of that season, having to cope with being nerfed, having to turn the line off, but still producing at the very highest level and managing to get that done despite a bit of a tumultuous final round. Hi to Seki in the chat, the Denko army already coming through. So Denko, I believe, is running with no line as a somewhat of an experiment. I think he was also, he ran an elite at the end of last season as well. And we'll just see how he gets on. Obviously, if he's running the assists that he wants to run, I would firmly expect him to see him right at the front of this field. Whether or not that's going to be the case with the line turned off, we're going to have to see. He sits currently 9th on a 120 flat. Yu-Home Hugs that time, the Hugo. That time sensational though. A 17.7, well clear of the rest. Robsu goes up into 4th position on a 118.8. Quite a spread out field. You tend to see that with these wet conditions, throwing a bit of a spanner in the works, you could say, and it doesn't seem to be deviating much in terms of the conditions. It seems to be holding pretty much steady at the moment. Just steady rain falling on the track. Of course, these drivers well adapted, and I still imagine the quickest times are going to come deep in the session when these drivers have gotten themselves nicely up to speed, and they can attack this circuit with all the confidence in the world, potentially. We shall see. But yeah, still more and more cars coming over the line. That's Avenir in the RB, goes through to P10 on a 119.8, just stepping under the 80-second barrier there. And further down the track, Trico Badayak, who typically very fast in qualifying too, managed to snatch up a 3rd place in the standings at the end of last season, which he would have been delighted with. Don't know if he'll be too delighted with P6 at the moment, but plenty more of improvements you would think to come throughout this session. Oh my goodness, we've got what looks like a Mercedes parked on the track. That's Drogon there at the apex of the Senna S. Didn't see the nature of that exactly, but he's got to go back on to his way. Are we turning it into the Hugo army? Maybe. We shall see. I mean, at the moment, it does seem like a bit of glory hunting, considering he is 7/10 in front of the next nearest car. But certainly showing tremendous pace out there, and a driver to support maybe going forward. 14 people in the stream, by the way. Much appreciated. That's absolutely lovely. I will do my best to cover this race with the coverage that it deserves, as we just take under 10 minutes to go in the session. I've been keeping an eye on Jackalacco and that McLaren. Both he and Sumo and the McLarens have got themselves up there very nicely in this session, and Jacko has been setting lap after lap after lap, just getting used to the conditions on the same set of tyres. When he puts a fresh set on later on, we'll see what he's capable of, but he's gradually drawing nearer to that time of Hugo, and still going out there finding 2/10 in the first sector thus far. Anyone further along on the lap? Enchilada is 3 seconds down. Of course, former champion here in Tier 2. I would say by his standards, he didn't have a great season last time out in Season 17, but he still came very, very close to a 3rd position in the standings. So certainly showing his class and his quality, still being able to get that car up there on a number of occasions, of winning, of course, in Catalonia. Keeping an eye on Robsu in that Williams. Could he find a little bit of time? He's going to find plenty. That goes to P2. A strong lap indeed from the Williams man. 18 dead, very, very quick indeed. Hugo has just started yet another lap though, so we'll see. He does thrive, I do believe, in these wet conditions, so we'll see how he is going to get on. Jackalacco is a fraction up to the first 2 sectors. He's going to be down on battery, and he's down on fuel as well. That does carry him to the line to a marginal improvement still sitting on an 18-1 in third place. I imagine, though, once he gets a bit more battery in hand and a fresh set of tyres, he'll be challenging for the top. We'll see if Hugo's able to extend that margin, though. First time he's been out on track in a little while in this session. He's going to go for gold out there at the moment. Further along the lap, there was the Aston Martin of Tier, who's just come over, I believe, to start one, maybe just did a set time with 19.2, his fastest so far, currently sitting in P number 11. And the champion also getting his session underway late in the day. We'll see how he's able to get on. His teammate at the moment is up, and up substantially. The first driver, I believe, to clock a time under 1 minute. Look at how early he's getting onto that overtake button. He is able to push the boundaries more than anyone else on the track at the moment. And the Red Bull driver might be able to make a very strong statement here. Up to the lane he comes. 1:17.1, nearly a full second clear of the Tier 2 grid. That is sensational from Hugo, once again proving to be the star of the show thus far. I do think as well, because in F2 we just ran around this track in the rain and he was phenomenal there as well. So clearly this track and conditions combination serving the Super Swede very well out there at the moment. But I'm keeping a close eye on the reigning champion, the current professional pole setter's teammate Kevin, making his first foray out there. We'll see how he's able to get on out there. I think that was Cavalish just improving to P9 Kevin. 101.2 through the first two sectors, which is certainly respectable. Is going to put him very much in the mix, but it is certainly not approaching that time of Hugo's. Avenir goes up to P6. Good lap from him. So we'll see what Kevin is able to muster up as he heads up towards the line. 118.9. Now, he hasn't run as much in these conditions as a lot of the others. Yeah, maybe there's more to come from him, but yeah, Hugo, just in a league of his own. Is there anyone on this grid that can match that sort of time? Maybe with the conditions improving, but you have to imagine that he is going to go even quicker when he gets the chance. He's not doing multiple laps out there. He's not, going through an adaptation process. He's just getting the run in, getting the car back into the pits and going again, and that seems to be working just fine for him at the moment, not needing the extra track time it seems, as it stands. And he sits 9/10 of a second clear, and this is a very competitive tier. That is such impressive driving. And we'll see if anyone else is able to measure up to that. Tier is going very well through the first two sectors. If he gets a good run here out of Jun Xiao, he may be challenging at the very least for a front row. He's got plenty of battery to use on the run up towards the line. 7th gear is going to get up towards 8th gear as he opens up that not going to open up that DRS as we are in the wet conditions. But he goes up in a third place, just fractionally ahead, 100th ahead of Jackalacco and the McLaren, pushing the two McLarens down to 4 and 5 at this stage as Lawrence just splits them, gets out in front of his old rival Sumo and just shy of Jacko, and Kevin managing to find time out there too, goes into 7th on 118.4. So the track is certainly improving, the drivers are certainly coming too, and I imagine we're going to see fireworks in the last 5 minutes of this qualifying session. Do not go away, it's going to be electric. Can anyone though top that time of Yuhom Hug? Nearly 9/10 of a second clear. That is unheard of in Tier 2. Watching Power Charlie head through in the Mercedes, sliding the rear end though, heading out of turn number 8. We'll see where he's able to go. Yes, Rick, I know, I did flub that. They were DRS. Oh my goodness, Charlie, I've done that myself many times. I know the pain of running into that grass on the run towards Vico de Pato. That's going to destabilize the car. He is going to continue on his way and still going very, very nicely. Nearly 8/10 of a second up, flying along there. Just missed Ench, I think, going up in a P2. Great lap, just pepping Robsu. The times are getting quicker and quicker. Josh the guy too, getting himself up into 4th position. So the track getting much, much quicker. Let's see what these drivers are able to muster up. Charlie to the line, goes up in a 14th place. Dips into the 118s, but that's no longer enough, it seems, in this session as more and more drivers find time out there. Jackalacco just getting a lap started up. The two McLarens running pretty much line astern throughout this session. Just continuing on then, trying to pump in the best lap times possible, but it seems as though no one else can match Hugo. Rob's, very impressive, getting up into 3rd position and finding some time out there. Maybe he can dip into the 1 minute 18s, although he doesn't seem to be using battery anymore. He may be abandoning that particular attempt and going again later on, but he's going very, very nicely out there at the moment, sat in that 3rd position. So we sit now with the time ticking down. If the yellow flags can clear themselves, I'd like to see how long is left in this qualifying session. Just 3.5 minutes to go. So these drivers are going to get increasingly desperate out there to find whatever time they can out there on the track. Let's watch Jackalacko, currently setting in P6, but just over a tenth of a second, is firing him up onto that front row. So if he continues to find the time, he's going to be going very, very strongly, and he is finding time. He's a quarter of a second up. Sumo down and invalid. He's going to try and set himself up again. Interestingly, Jacko with a full battery heading out of Jun Shao. Well, that's going to serve him well on the run up towards the line. Currently setting in at P6. Can he catapult himself up the order? He certainly can. He goes second, and I still think there's more time out there. His teammate just trailing him on the track, trying to get a clean lap in this time. Josh the Guy bails to the pit lane. He may just have enough time to get another lap in, but it's going to be pretty close. JB, I think, coming up towards the line further back. Looks like that was another lap abandoned by the Aston Martin driver, so he will go again later on. Just over 2 minutes to go in this session. The tension starting to ratchet up there. Rob Sue, let's see what he can do. If he puts a clean lap together, you suspect that he can find much more time out then. And he is 0.3 of a second up. He can consolidate a P2 potentially. Doesn't get the cleanest run through Jun Shao. You can see him trying to straighten up the car. Try and get that traction down as best he can. He's elected not to use that battery all the way up towards the line. He's actually left it off the throttle, so he thinks that there's more to come. And this lap wasn't the one. He's going to reset, regather himself, and probably go again later on in the session. Further back, there was aces in the Haas going up in towards P number 12, and Tricky just improving to P8. Time starting to clock in as we head in towards the final 2 minutes of this qualifying session, with Hugo still leading it, and Avenir going up in a second. Wow. He is performing exceptionally well out there at the moment, but I think his P2 may be short-lived because Jackalacko is flying fast. He goes up into second position, replacing Avenir. We'll see where his teammate is able to go. It's a little improvement, but only leapfrogging Kevin at the moment. His old title rival goes up into position number 10 at the moment, not quite singing in these wet conditions. So, Jackalacko finding a strong run out there to a 17.6, but still half a second down. Hugo is still sat in the pit lane. He may have left it too late to go out again, but I imagine he thinks that his pole, he's not going to get another lap in. So that's interesting, but I don't know if anyone has the speed to really trouble that pole position at all. But looking further along the track, Denko is heading out to an outlet that he currently sits 19th on a 1:19 dead. Now, of course, he is in a bit of uncharted territory with this nerf. Maybe it's going to be really affecting him. It's certainly not going to help in these wet conditions, that's for sure. So the man from Greece may just be up against it in this qualifying session. Of course, we may revoke that nerf. We shall see. But he comes through the first sector. He is 0.3 of a second up, so if he can continue to find time, he may put himself very much into the mix. The Tier 3 winner last night goes up in a 10th position on a 1:18.2. Solid lap from Maroons there. So, getting towards the final stages of this session, the time's starting to tick down, and we're going to watch these cars as they come over the line. That's Inge, who just comes over, gets the start of the lap. Going to be one of the first drivers to get that underway. So, towards the line, Jackalacko just resetting, 13 seconds to go in the session. The Mercedes are coming down. Charlie's going to be very, very tight. He may be the last driver over the line. He will just about make it across in time. His teammate Drogon bows out to the pit lane. JB, I believe that time is just going to expire just in a nick of time, and unfortunately JB is going to be eliminated from this session as it stands. He's going to sit in P15, no improvement to be found. Where is Denko in that Ferrari? He's just under half a second up, finding it tough with that no line. He does lose a substantial amount of time in that last sector, and it's only 17th for the Ferrari. Big surprise, Kevin, right at the last, finds the speed when he needed to. I just missed, by the way, Tier, who set a stormer of a lap to go into second place. I completely missed that. I must apologise, because that's a sensational effort from the Aston Martin driver, getting himself up onto the front row and may well stay there. Does anyone else have the speed out there to challenge? It's going to be the Haas of Aces up to the line. Just finds a little bit of time. It goes up into P number 12. Avenue remains in P5. Charlie moves up nicely, goes up into 7th. But how well is that time going to stand up? Inch coming to the line. That's P4. 17.6. He'll probably take that one. one. Jackalacko is a fraction down in the first 2 sectors, heading up towards the line now. Currently sits P5, goes up to P4, just pepping Ench on the line there. Does Sumo behind him have any more in store? No, it doesn't. So he's going to have a very disappointing session. Charlie, who just got over the line to start his final lap, he sets a 1:18.4, goes up in a 15th position. Robsu plummeting down the order late, just couldn't get a late lap in at the death, so he has to settle for 10th in this session. Much disappointment for a lot of drivers out there. That is simply what rain provides. But Hug, Hugo, dominant in the end. He did get chased down hard by Tier. Again, I'm sorry for missing that lap, because that was a mighty impressive effort to go just over a 10th and a half down on Hugo. But it is Hugo taking that, and his teammate Kevin backing him up too with a 3rd position. So Red Bull probably, again, for me, went into this season as a slight constructors' favourites, and at the moment backing that up so far. But we do have 36 laps of Interlagos to follow, so don't go anywhere. Don't know what the conditions going to be, if it's going to follow on from what we've seen here in this qualifying session. The rain, is it going to carry over to the race? That is what remains to be seen, but we will bow out of this 18-minute qualifying session. First pole of the season goes to Hug. We'll see if he's able to convert it in 36 laps of Interlagos. So, just to clear up the order, once again, Hugo takes pole ahead of a very impressive Tier, another driver who thrives in these wet conditions. Kevin comes next, starting his title defence, getting off to a good start, just ahead of Jackalacko. Ench, P5 in the end, sharing that 3rd row with Josh the Guy. Behind that is Lawrence and Avenir. That top 10 rounded up by the Williams pairing of Charlie and Rob. So behind that, Tricky Badaik in P11. He would have expected more, I do think. Runes in 12th, just ahead of Aces and Sumo down in P14. Charlie comes next, joined next by his teammate Drogon. Then it's JB, Cavalis, Denko and Uglark rounding out the grid. So a number of drivers certainly a bit out of position for where you'd expect them to be based off of their typical raw pace. So things are turning around rather quickly here as we get towards the race. Is it going to be another rain interrupted affair? Let's see. Doesn't seem that way for the moment, but there is a bit of cloud cover. We shall see. Of course, one thing I will say is the tyre wear around this track in the race is absolutely demonic. It is horrific, and doing a one-stop around this track is trying to arm wrestle a gorilla. I guess instead of broken bones, you'd probably get a broken rubber instead. So we'll see if it does remain dry out there for the drivers. Some will be welcoming that news, some will be lamenting it. That is, of course, the unpredictable nature of just racing. There's so many variables that come into play. We'll see if any variables are able to get in Hugo's way, though. Tier joining him on that front row. It's a relatively short run down towards that first corner, but it is still a tricky start. Of course, most of these drivers are going to be starting on a fairly substantial incline, which I imagine isn't going to be something that most people would consider, but it's certainly still a potential threat out there. And yeah, the pinch point at turn 1 as well. You can gain a lot potentially by just running around the outside, because it's hard on that tight line. The car can get away from you very, very easily. As actually Zeki in the chat saying, rip Hugo if weather is dry. Well, weather is dry for the moment. We'll see if it will stay that way as we build up to the first race of Tier 2. We have 5 lights. And the Brazilian Grand Prix is go from the front of the grid, as I believe Avenir is out of the session, unfortunately. Hugo does convert that pole, but Kevin is around the outside on those medium tires, gaining up into P2 and getting that move done. There's a lot of ghosting out there, so I hope this lobby is going to remain stable as we settle in towards the race with Hugo leading the way comfortably, it seems, from Kevin. Both these guys starting on mediums, trying to get off to the best possible start. Down and towards the seat of Delago. Jackalacko trying to punish Tier, and Tier starting on those hards, just can't quite hold him up. He slides down another possession. He runs P5 on the road as the Delta finally fixes itself, and it seems as though we've got all physical cars out. There's, oh my goodness, Charlie to the inside of Josh the Guy, trying to squeeze his way through the tiniest of gaps into Laranjina. Finds himself side by side through the middle of this middle sector. He's going to get squeezed out there though. Josh the Guy, I don't think he's going to be too happy with that, but he does run NP8. Let's see the tyres choices. It is a tough track in terms of strategy, and we're seeing that come into play once again with with different strategies being employed by some of these drivers. A lot of hard runners out there, relatively speaking. They can go a long way, and the mediums can overheat. So let's see if that's going to potentially be a factor further along in this race. They tried to settle in, but at the moment, there's cars everywhere out there at the moment. As we've got the two kick servers battling away down towards the run towards turn 1. Avenir just in front of them seems to still be in the lobby. He has lost a substantial amount of places, and his delta is all out of sync. So that's going to be a major concern. It doesn't seem as though he's been put forward a lap, although his delta says he's 1:15 ahead of the car in front of him. That doesn't make much sense at all. Charlie slow on the Reto Aposta, drops down into P number 11. Didn't catch the start of that, but he slides down that order, trying to make an impression early on, but currently down there in 11th at the moment. They try and settle into the race. Robsu hassling Tier. Tier struggling, as you might expect, on a set of the hard tyres. They will come good, I assure you of that. The mediums, again, they do not last very long, as Denko is round at Ferradura. Didn't see how that happened. Of course, he's trying to recover from a disastrous qualifying session, but at the moment, his run, of course, he was looking at potentially being a title contender. He has the speed for it, but at the moment, not getting off to the best possible start. Hugo leads comfortably, though, at the moment, stretching away from Kevin. Sets the fastest lap of the race and soldiering on. Get the telemetry up so we see where these guys are at in terms of battery. Robson flies past Tier and trying to follow him through as Charlie squeezing through the tiniest of gaps. In the end, it does not come off for him, and Josh the guy may fancy trying to put the pressure on that Mercedes. He's got much more battery to use. If he keeps on it, he may gain substantially at the end of this straight, but it seems as though there just isn't going to be enough straight, and at the moment, Charlie is able to maintain that 7th position out there in that Mercedes. Tier, though, sliding back on those hard tyres, doesn't seem to quite have the race pace at the moment. Lawrence further back, trying to fend off the other Charlie. He gets a much better run through Ferradura, though, than Runes in front of him. But heading to this middle sector, can't quite pull anything off, as Jacko picks up a 10-second penalty for corner cutting. He did have grass on his tyres there, so I don't know if he's come across the inside, potentially, of Essen maybe at turn 8, but he nevertheless has lost out greatly from that. He's now sits over 3 seconds adrift of all the drivers in front of him, so the McLaren driver not singing out there at the moment. Further up in front, Hugo still leads. He's under-fueled that car, but fuel doesn't tend to burn at this track. Henge, NP3, had a good start, but he's struggling to live with those in front of him. Robsu on the inside of Jackalacco, a drag race down towards the Senna S between the Williams and the McLaren. It's the Williams who's going to come away with that one. Jackalacco settling down then into position number 5, and that 10-second time penalty, I'm not sure if it's one that gets served in the pit lane. I'm not sure if that's the case. It may be added to him at the end, which in that case he can try and steward it away. So we'll keep an eye on that. Further back, Runes and Josh the guy, the two Alpines battling away into the seat of the Lago. Josh tries to carry the speed all the way around the outside to stay level with the Australian, but Runes has that battery to use and punches away on the exit. He's going to chase down Charlie next, though, at the moment. Chasing down that Mercedes as Aces further back in the field is dropping places down there at Ferradura. He doesn't seem to be all the way around, and he's still in the mix. Still the Alpines battle it further out in front. Josh the guy just runs out of space on the run. Oh my goodness, runs into the back of Mika Tabato to the Mercedes in front of him of Charlie, and that's going to be damage for the Australian, the Tier 3 winner last night. His race severely compromised now, and he's going to, I imagine, slide down that order. Of course, hard to tell how exactly bad the damage is, but it's going to affect him greatly. Is he going to dive to the pit lane? Not going to be the case for the moment. Josh the guy is chasing him as Charlie's the next driver to blast past here, and around the outside goes Runes. He's still fighting on, but gets onto the grass into the ZS and off the road is Runes. Runes trying to gather that car back up. He's going to rejoin, just about manages to avoid Charlie on the way through. He's got to watch out for Sumo in that McLaren, chasing him down as well, as it looks like Aces has gone off once again at the back, and is going to be swallowed up by the remainder of that train. Uglarp, Denko and Drogon up towards him. There's red and green flashing all over the Delta. They're nearly 3-way into Ferradura further up the road. These drivers are going at it with everything they've got. It seems as though this race has got to try and settle down at some point. I saw more end plate flying. Was that potentially? It wasn't off the Williams of Charlie as I thought it was at first. But he manages to recover on his way. It did seem like something went flying at the very least as Runes and Cavalis battle it away. Runes going to get stuck on that outside and dropping down the field. It's been a nightmare minute for the Tier 3 winner from last night, trying to get himself back on the road, but ultimately slipping way down the order. My goodness, it's hard to keep track with all the action out there, but Hugo does lead and lead comfortably. Kevin, work going with him, as further back we've got yellows again. That's Drogon down at the back of the field. There's a contact this time between Jackalaco and Robsu in the middle of turn number 1. The McLaren was sideways. Robsu backed out of it initially. He's now going to get a run though with DRS, and he's going to blast his way past. These guys getting in a bit of a hot-tempered battle over positions number 4 and 5 and trying to fend off that chasing train behind them, led now by Power Charlie, trying to get up towards these guys. Tier is struggling out there, but those hard tyres are going to be getting better and better as the laps tick on. Josh the Guy pressuring Lawrence up towards Ferradura. Sumo right in behind there too, as Runes is elected to dive to the pit lane and I imagine get that damage fixed. He's got a set of the hard tyres on, and he's going to be forced, I imagine, into going hard to the end because they simply do not have the distance, the durability to go all the way to the checkered flag on just that one set. So Runes is going to have to come in again, and you'd imagine he's relying on a safety car to work his way back into contention. Just under 6 laps gone in this race, with Hugo leading from Kevin very comfortably out there at the moment. Inches falling away, unable to match the pace of the 2 Red Bulls who run in an easy 1-2, and behind it is still Manic. Lawrence from Josh the Guy around the outside. Look at the Alpine go, blasting past him with overspeed, and Sumo now attacking his old rival Lawrence to the outside of the centre S. He manages to put Lawrence a little bit offline. Can he follow closely through turn 2? That's not going to help Lawrence. A big snap in the middle of the centre S is going to put him under pressure on the run towards the Sierra del Lago. Can Sumo get up and alongside towards turn number 4? He's trying it. He's getting to the inside. Lawrence brakes late, tries to send the car in there with speed, and he's just about managed to pull it off. Maybe picked up a warning there, but in the end he keeps the position. But for how much longer? Sumo is hassling him, going from right to left, heading down and towards Ferradura. He forces Lawrence to run deep, but Lawrence gathers that car, gets it back onto line and fends off Sumo. It's always great when these two go at it, and they're sending it again on each other. Lawrence able to repel the attacks of Sumo. Sumo, I think his pace is stronger than this position on track would suggest at the moment. He tries to get himself back on the way, and Lawrence has got to worry about keeping DRS of Josh the Guy out in front of him. This train led along by Robsu. Charlie did a great job of bridging across. Now he's got to try and attack Jackalaco up in front. Jacko with plenty of with ERS though, I should say, is able to fend him off for the time being. Further back, Josh the Guy trying to pressure Tier all over the place on the straight, as Sumo this time disposes of Lawrence, and now it looks like a move that's going to stick. Cavill is chasing down JB, getting close on the brakes as Jacko and Robsu are at it again, heading through the curve of the Sol. The Williams driver manages to get the upper hand once again, and DRS I think should see through that move, and Jacko's not going to fight that one too hard. This train beginning to come together. Can Sumo haul his way back in now with a bit of clean air to drive into? We're 7 laps gone in the race, and I'd expect to see pit stops off of this medium tyre in the next couple of laps to come. Drogon has elected to come into the pit lane in that Mercedes. Not sure, it's just a pit stop for tyres, and he's going to try and undercut his way back into the race. Going to be a long way up from here though. Yuhong Hug leads by 2 seconds at the moment from Kevin Enchiladad. Still falling away though, and these Red Bull drivers are in full command of this Brazilian Grand Prix at the moment. In the midfield though, it is still Manic. It is being led along by Robsu. Sumo struggling hard to work his way back in. If he gets a good run out of Jun Shao, he might be able to seal it with a bit of battery on the exit. Looks as though he's managed to claw his way back into DRS, and the train goes longer. Up at the front though, there's another potential break. Jackalaco again having to haul his way back into contention. Josh the Guy pits from the middle of that train. Again, it is around that time where you want to get off of these mediums. They may be overheating on some drivers if they haven't gotten their pressures right. So into the pits comes Josh the Guy. Charlie as Tier out of the session. Hopefully he can work his way back in, of course, after that stellar qualifying session. Be such a shame if he was unable to get himself back in. At the very least, it is going to cost him dearly though. Further back, Tricky Badayak attacking JB, head towards the Sierra del Lago on the way out. The 2 cars still side by side, but Lawrence has come off further in front, and JB's going to sweep around the outside. Trico will follow him through too. Lawrence not sure what happened there. He's still fighting this one at Ferradura around the outside, but understeer is going to betray him, and he has to tuck in back behind the Kick Sauber driver down in a 12th place. Lawrence has been struggling out there in that Ferrari. It hasn't been a good evening for the Scuderia thus far. A break in the train inevitably forms as Tier drops back with that AI driving for him again. Hopefully he does have a means of getting himself back into the session. I'll keep an eye on the chat as well, the Discord chat that is, to see if he does need another invite back into the session, or if he can get him by himself. We shall see as we head on to lap 10 of the race, with Hugo still leading from Kevin very comfortably at the moment. Jackalacos hold his way back towards Robso there. Charlie is under pressure, and there's undercuts coming in from some of the drivers behind. Sumo trying to work his way into that battle, as is JB, as Charlie picks up a time penalty, and Tier is back into the session, so that's good to see. If he can try and get control of that car as soon as possible and limit those losses and try and fight on from here on out. As I say that, he's back out again. Maybe it's just the connection not quite there for the Aston Martin driver. Gutting way for him to start his season. Further back, Avenir is fighting away with Lawrence and actually getting that move done. Lawrence just struggling substantially out there in the Ferrari. And oh, it's Avenir's round! Avenir round as I say that, just at Ferradura, losing the rear on those hard tyres. Maybe still not getting the grip that he would have wanted. He drops down into 13th position. He was brilliant in the wet, but at the moment in these dry conditions, not quite having the same sort of fortune as Charlie 04 gets a penalty further down the road. I'm expecting a lot of response pit stops from some of these drivers near the front of the field. Hugo and Kevin still extending, getting life out of them as Inch comes in, and that seems to be a wise choice. He's got to really focus on seeing off the charge of Robso and Jacko further back. Jacko does come in though, and just going long into the box. That's so easy to do. It's such a difficult pit entry, and Jacko Lacko has fallen foul of that, I'm afraid, and that, to be honest, didn't look like it was overly close in terms of whether he sped or not. So that's going to be a big blow to Jackalacco's race, and I imagine a bit of relief for Robso as he continues on now with clean air, trying to stave off some of the undercuts that some of the drivers around him have been looking for. There's yellows down there at the Senna S. That maybe, yeah, that is the RB of Uglarp having a difficult night out there, it must be said. Getting that car back onto the road, but ultimately far adrift of much of these drivers, as I am going to try just to get Tier back involved. So just give me 1 second. Let's see, I can't remember if I actually have him as a friend, but doesn't seem that way. Hang on, I'm just going to go into the group, so you may not be able to see anything, but race still running just fine. Where are we? Okay, I've had a look. I've tried to invite him, but at the moment it doesn't seem to be working. It seems it's telling me to join a multiplayer game. I may be missing something there. Yeah, at the moment it doesn't seem to be working for me. I have tried, so we'll see going forward. I've just sent a friend request here. I wasn't friends with him on PlayStation. Hopefully that does sort itself out, but it just wasn't letting me invite him for some reason. Anyway, let's have a look towards the Grand Prix itself, as Hugo has decided to come in to the pits and put a set of medium tyres on, so looking to drive the knife in, so to speak, on the rest of his competitors, as Kevin, his teammate, in the thick of it at the moment as he heads through drivers who haven't come into the pits yet, and that does open the door for Ench, who's managed to come across that undercut, working really well for the Haas driver, and he follows the Red Bull through very, very nicely. Tier getting a time penalty, which does say to me he is actually back in the session, so that's good. That means nothing more to worry about. Kevin and Ace is battling it out, and Ace is trying to help his teammate out by battling away with the Red Bull, keeping the other Haas right in the mix. Look at that, Kevin balked on the outside, nothing he could do on the outside into Jude Shao. and there's no potential of Enchiladad having any separation to the Red Bull in front of him. They should both blast past Aces on this straight. Ace is using all of his battery, still trying his level best to hold Kevin off, but he's got to be wary of his teammate further back. He's still going to battle it, late on the brakes, and towards the Senna S, and in the end having to just back out of it, did not quite have the grip. Ench will follow his way through. Damage, it does seem to be on the other Haas, so he will come through nicely and try and stick with Kevin. Kevin will do all he can to break away. He's nearly out of that 1 second range. Further back, Josh, the guy who's managed to work his way into this fight as well with an even bigger undercut. He's on the inside of Aces and gets the move done. So pitting in early does prove to be very effective against aging, fading medium tyres. These drivers getting fresh hards on have managed to work their way in very, very nicely. And jumping the rest of them, Robsu is a long way down out there, struggling at the moment. Jackalacco is a lot further down the order than he was earlier on. So I think maybe when I was trying to invite Tier, we ran into some issues there, didn't quite catch what happened to him, but he's a long way down the order as it stands. At the back of that rear, that midfield pack, it is still blistering stuff out there. A lot of these drivers are battling very, very hard. Cavalis is out there still trying to go. I imagine he's got to come in. Those tyres must be pushing puncture territory. I don't know if you can take these tyres to the end of the race, these cars, but he's certainly giving it a good go. I did not think a one-stop was going to be on the cars, but maybe he's going to give it a go as Lawrence trying the exact same strategy. Again, speeding into that pit lane. Another driver picking up that 10 seconds, joining Jackalacco in that club. They're going to put hard tyres on. That's going to be a long slog to the end, I can assure you of that. It may just be doable, though. We shall see. Robsu takes Denko on the run towards the seat of Delago and gets his way up into 6th position, trying to work his way up towards that group in front. Ace is the next driver on the road, and if we have seen from what we've seen from Aces, he is going to fight that one tooth and nail. He's trying to protect his teammate as well. He wasn't able to stick with Kevin. That just simply wasn't going to happen. Josh the guy working very hard to keep himself in contention, though. He's got 2-lap older tyres out there, and it's just running a little bit wide at Pico de Pato, maybe just affording that opportunity for Josh to stay with him for another lap. He's got plenty of battery too, as Josh the guy, so he's certainly not out of that fight just yet, as they run at 1 and 2, or 3 and 4 I should say, in terms of the positions on the track. On the run down to the line, that is going to be the end of their 16th lap of this race. Yu Homehug leads the way and leads comfortably. He's gone different on strategy from the rest, and it's going to be hard tyres at the end of the race. But at the moment, he looks very comfortable out there. Charlie under pressure from Suo. Suo braking very late around the outside of the Senna S. Can he pull that one off? He's got the inside line for the second part. Charlie with more momentum on the way out. He may have picked up a warning there, but he does have that DRS to use. He's still about half a car length back. Can that DRS claw his way back up towards the seat of Delago? Sumo's got plenty of straight line speed though, holding it round the outside of turn 4. Still in there is Charlie, still fighting on. He gets a better run too. Sumo does not quite get the grip he wanted. The Mercedes tries to pull through. Overtake though. Back on for the McLaren driver. Manages to get that done in the end. Awesome fighting between these two. But it is Sumo who comes out on top in that fight. Or does he? Charlie is not giving up. Taking a wider line through Pinarino, going towards the outside of Pico de Pato. He's going to run out of space there though. 2 wheels on the grass. Manages to control the car really nicely, and he's still threatening. What a scrap between these two great drivers out there. Power Charlie throwing everything at Sumo. Sumo has a bit more battery to use down this straight. That may be pivotal as they both stamp on that throttle pedal and get that overtake button working. Charlie using the last of his battery reserves, but it seems as though Sumo has the wings on him. He's got more straight line speed, and it seems as though he's able to convert that possession, and through that middle sector maybe he can try and extend his way away. He's got to lap all the tyres. These guys continuing to go at it out there. They haven't quite come across the Aces just yet. Robsu has cleared both of them as Josh the guy attacking Edge and getting the move done on Edge around the outside. Well, the Irishman try and fade it back. Josh making sure he covers that inside line towards Ferradura. I don't know if Enchiladad was really considering a counter-attack there. He doesn't have the battery to do so anyway. He slots in a 4th place. That battle looks like it's going to endure. Further back, Jackalacco picking off Runes. He's got much fresher tyres in that McLaren. Runes did a good job of getting himself back into the race, considering the wing fix. He gained quite a lot through going for that undercut, but ultimately now it's working against him. Older tyres, well, you can't go against pure physics at the moment. He slips back down the order, Jackalacko up to P number 11. My oh my, this race has been all over the place. Cars everywhere, everyone battling on out there, and the race situation changing all the time, it seems. I mean, not so much at the front. Hugo's led very comfortably from the start. Kevin's starting to reel him in now with a fresher tyres underneath his Red Bull, and those mediums may again be overheating potentially, at the very least wearing quite substantially. But he's got such a great lead, it's hard to imagine him ever being reeled in. Battling still going on behind as now Sumo and Charlie come up towards the back of Ace's. Sumo seems like he caught behind a little bit in the middle of the curve of the Sol, but he is going to work his way through on the run towards Desira de Lago. A little bit of entry contact between the two, and Charlie may fancy his chances of following the McLaren right through, and that is exactly what he is going to do. Smart, opportunistic driving for the Mercedes driver, and he stays with Sumo. That battle still enduring between these two for P6 and P7. But a good comeback drive so far for both of these guys, currently running both of them up 8 positions in the race. Good stuff from them as up at the front. Hugo's gone round. Hugo's gone right heading out of Jun Shao. Oh my goodness me. The race leader, the dominant race leader, has done a major off, heading out of the final corner of lap 18, and now Kevin is right there with him. The two Red Bulls still very much clear at the front of this race, but my goodness, Hugo, he's put a lot more pressure on himself than really needed to be, and if those tyres weren't overheating before, they certainly will be now. The champion Kevin, well, I don't know how friendly these guys are as teammates at this stage, but I think that Kevin may be fancying his chances further back. Ench and Josh the guy still going at it. They're both much closer to the head of the race than they were before. They run through in P4 and 5. Hugo still leading the way. He still hasn't made up the fuel. He underfueled by at the start of the race, so we'll keep an eye on that on the one through. And of course, he's getting himself a much bigger task with Kevin chasing him down. Now, Hugo, I imagine, because he's on the mediums at the moment, is probably going to come in a little bit earlier than Kevin and can try and steal a bit of a march. The hard tyre is a very good race tyre. He's going to have to defend against that in the end. Can he recover with just that sheer raw pace he has? Kevin, and about 8/10 at the moment through most of this lap, not easily staying within that DRS. He is just going to get it for another lap, and he does have plenty more battery than Hugo at the moment. It's that at this point, it's still a difficult decision to come in for the hard tyres to end the race for Hugo. You can see how much that battery is costing him. Also, if I know Kevin, he is probably running some very, very low wings on his Red Bull, as he always tends to do. And still pressuring Josh the guy. Kevin, is he going to be able to take the lead away from his teammate for the first time? It seems as though he's going to do so, and do so with ease. Kevin to the lead here in Interlagos, and for the first time it seems in this race, Yu-Home Hug is under a little bit of pressure out there. He drops the P2, still very much in the race, and as I said, he's gonna get a bit of an undercut. He's gonna get some nice good race tyre, that hard tyre, to end the race. But what was looking like a dominant cruise to victory all of a sudden is a fight which is very much in the balance, as Josh the guy picks up a penalty. I just clocked that one in Essa corner at turn 8. That's going to put him under much more pressure, and Ench with 2 lap fresher tyres as well is going to be more fixated in just keeping that Alpine in his sights. He runs wide too, heading into Bico de Pato, and Ench is going to gobble up that position with ease, sweeping around to the 3rd position on the road. The race complexion changing all the time. Huge twists and turns in the last couple of laps, with Kevin there right in the mix with his teammate. The Red Bull streaking clear still at the front of the field, but all to play for as we head towards the final third of the Brazilian Grand Prix. They do still run lane astern, and Hugo looks to be putting effort into trying to save that battery now. He must know, well, he must be planning, I should say, on coming into those pits a good deal sooner than his teammate is going to do. Kevin is not going to feel comfortable with going more than about 11 or 12 laps on those medium tyres, you would think, and that could be Hugo's opportunity to steal a march in the middle of this race. Further back, JB picking off Hazes, who's still soldiering on those hard. He started the race on his tear out of the session once again. It's been a gutting evening for the man who started on the front row, down in 17th now, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to find his way back in. That connection just doesn't seem to be holding. Jacko pressuring Aces. I mean, this is a phenomenal effort on hard tyres, I have to say, going more than half the race distance. Again, maybe not such an incredible feat at most tracks, but here at Interlagos, those tyres wear very, very quickly. So for him to still be out there, spinning up the rears too out of BOOGITYYYYYY, they will be crying for life out there. At the moment, but still going on very nicely. That's going to be 21 laps. I wonder if he is going to pit at the end of this one, though. We shall see. Cavalis tried to squeeze his way through. He manages to find a gap on the inside of Jacko Lacko. Jacko blasting a bit of the overtake button. Ace is still staying out. There's cars coming in for their second pit stop of the race, for goodness sake, as Charlie goes in. And we've got, actually, no, Charlie's gone off, heading out of BOOGITYYYYY. The man currently sitting 19th, and he's brought out, is it a VSC or is it a full safety car? I've got to look for some of these boards out there at the side of the track. There does seem to be a safety car heading out onto the circuit. My goodness me. This race just got changed substantially out there. We have a safety car out here, again, gutting for Charlie. His evening coming to a close, but the rest of the field is going to be condensed. This is... wow, this turns this race on its head. Well, we see what the strategy is going to be for most of these guys. I imagine it's going to be very simple. The question is, Kevin can pick and choose his tyres here. He's gone medium to hard. Hugo is going to be forced to go onto a set of the hard tyres. I do wonder, though, what the strategy is going to be for Kevin. If he's going to match his teammate, and of course Hugo, he is going to have to stack here. I imagine he should be okay, as I think Kevin only barely got that stop for the pit lane then. Gained a lot of time on his teammate on the way in. Let's see what's going to happen here. Is Hugo going to be able to recover that quick enough to stay in front? He's fortunate the gap is so big to Ench and Josh the guy. He's going to filter in nicely. Get a speedy double stack going, and he is going to be able to maintain that position too, as Charlie picks up a time penalty. Power Charlie into the pit lane. So needless, you have to say, given the fact that we do have a safety car out there, and how quick you enter the pits doesn't mean much. Hard tyre does seem to be the choice for the majority of the field, but a couple of drivers going against the grain. Robsu and Charlie, who's got to try and recover well, of course, after that 10-second penalty. There's a few of those out then. Jacko Lacko, I think. Actually, Jacko Lacko, I just realised why he was so far back. His 10-second penalty is not for speeding, it's for corner cutting. So he picked up another one entering the pit lane, and that one has now been served. So that's why he's dropped further down the field. Lawrence, of course, he would have also served a 10-second penalty in there, as JB as well in the Aston Martin having to do the same. Some of the old guard having issues getting that car stopped for the pit lane. Now, the field from front to back is relatively spread out, so I'd expect it to be a couple of laps before we can get this race back underway. Uglarp is nearly a full lap down as he tries to recover, get himself back into the mix. So Kevin now leads from Hugo. Ench and Josh the guy and everyone else, they're going to be right back in the mix. They Robsu as well with a set of the medium tyres. How much of a threat can the Williams driver provide in the closing laps of this Brazilian Grand Prix? So the field will condense soon enough. We've got a bit of a nail-biter on our hands with about a third of the race left to run. Hopefully we get underway soon. It is going to be a while before we get Uglarp back on, unfortunately, but he's going to have a bit of a reset and see all the cars back in front of him again, ready to go after them. So on to lap 24. Kevin leads the way, the reigning champion from the last race winner in Tier 2, Hugo. They've filtered through 1 and 2. They've seemed to be a class apart in this Grand Prix thus far. But it has been Hugh Hug dominating thus far. But now he's got to try and get this one done on track. Kevin leads the way. Kevin is always a tough driver to overtake, so this won't be an easy one to get done. It's the Red Bulls battling it out at the front of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Most of the drivers up at the front of the field, as you can see, opting for a set of the hard tyres. It's the safer option. It's going to be good all the way to the checkered flag. But look at this mid-pack. Robsu, the highest driver, who's opted for a set of those yellow wall tyres. But a lot of drivers at the lower end of that top 10 have elected to go for that strategy. and they're going to be trying to make a big difference coming out of the box and moving through the field in the next couple of laps. And yeah, just a good point actually. This safety car will have helped Hugo in one way, that any fuel concerns he may have had, and of course he may have been on track to make that under-fueling back anyway, but he is now going to be over that threshold and should be good to go from here on out to the checkered flag. We're going to get JB and Uglar back into the race soon enough, so it should be at the end of lap 25 we'll get this one underway. So the field now recondensed. The two Red Bulls who are running away have the field at their backs, but I do wonder if they can apply any sort of challenge given the dominant pace that we've seen from both Kevin and Hugo. They run out in front at the moment. We'll see if the medium runners can apply any pressure too. There's lots of storylines to keep an eye on in the closing stages of this race, but with the field bunched up, well, as the old adage goes, anything can happen in Grand Prix racing, and it usually does. Let's see how that goes then. We should be getting things back underway in just a few minutes' time. So soon we will be underway. And yeah, let's see how this one is going to unfold. Red Bull 1 and 2. It's been Red Bull 1 and 2 seemingly since the start. The safety cars in this lap, and we will get racing back underway in Brazil. Kevin will control the pace. Again, how friendly is this partnership at Red Bull? I wonder. They've chose to be teammates for this season, but I imagine they're both going to be very hungry to win. There's not many options for Kevin to get the jump at the moment. The safety car peels to the pit lane and can go at any time. Is he going to run this one up to the line? No, he gets on the throttle pedal early, and Hugo responds very well. He's going to get himself into that slipstream and try and cap out his way past, but Edge is in the mix too. Trying to get himself amongst the Red Bull battle. Looks to the inside, not going to happen for him at the moment. Further back, medium runners trying to advance. Sumo covering off Charlie. Those two are going to go at it again out there. Charlie with a penalty. Actually 13 seconds worth of penalties. He sped in the pit lane too. Is gonna, oh, he drives off the circuit down the Retro Aposta. Bizarre stuff for the Mercedes. Has Trico Bediak all over him now. The two Ferraris. It's been a torrid evening for the two Ferraris out there. Denko getting his way past his teammate, but they are an awful long way adrift of the rest of the field now, and not many points on offer, it seems, at the moment for those guys, as Charlie gets another time penalty. He's going to be one of the biggest losers from this safety car, and that is going to compound his misery as he slides well off the road, heading through Pinarino, and that's going to drop him right to the rear of the field. Didn't quite catch the start of that. Was there contact? Was it just on his own? Nevertheless, the Mercedes driver, there's going to be no consolation. He is very much dead and buried at the back of the field as Ruins picks off Avenir. He's going to have a lease of new life too, charging forward on medium tyres after being sent back substantially through damage. He's going to be right in the ascendancy, working his way back in. Kevin leads the way from Hugo and Enge. The gap's still relatively small though, so they haven't been able to break away quite the same way these Red Bulls. Granted, they pretty much got separation after the first couple of laps. Early on, and there was no chance for these guys to stay in a DRS train. Things are very different now, but Hugo wants to take the lead of the race away. He gets past his teammate and towards turn number 4 and takes the lead of the race away as Charlie becomes the second car and the second Charlie to bring his evening to a close down in that pit lane. So 18 drivers left in the running. JB and Lawrence as Lawrence, and the Ferrari is well off the road at Tessino del Lago, rejoins, but down in the P16 he continues to hemorrhage places out then. And it doesn't seem like it's going to be points on the night for the Ferrari driver. Maybe he can benefit from some penalties, especially, well, not from Charlie anymore, I should say, because he's elected to go into the pit lane. I don't think many points were on the cards for him anyway. Look at Hugo go, though. Look at Hugo go. He is trying to stretch away and put this race to bed. Kevin just about managing to hold on to DRS. He's got no more battery than the man in front of him. Hugo is dominating things out there, and it seems as though he's going to be able to stretch away a 1:10.1 in race trim. Phenomenal raw speed. He locks up big time heading into the Senna S, and Kevin with, again, those incredibly low wings he always seems to run, is able to close it down on the straight but through the middle sector. He is going to be under big pressure, and he still has Ench and Josh the Guy very much for company. Doesn't seem as though the medium runners have been able to make much of an impression. Robsu's still stuck in that P5, and it seems as though most of these guys have held in the position they were in as Sumo gets what could be a very crucial penalty. There's 4 drivers immediately behind him that do not have penalties to their name, but it's getting more and more difficult to keep it clean as Drogon picks up another one further down the field as well. So these drivers now, many of them I imagine are going to have 1, maybe 2 warnings at this stage. You've got to keep it clean all the way to the checkered flag, especially with how close the field is now running after that safety car. Kevin is on the edge once again. He's still got battery to use, but if Hugo gets a good run through Jun Shao, it's going to be difficult for Kevin to claw his way back in. He takes a lot of curb on the inside, gets a decent enough exit. Is it going to be enough? I think it is, just about. Kevin is hanging on by a thread with his teammate, but it seems as though Hugo, nevertheless, is he going to face any on-track pressure? Maybe the only potential danger to his race is picking up a 3-second penalty. Kevin closes him down rapidly down the straight, but he finds himself so far adrift at the start of that straight that he can't make much of an impression. The top 4 beginning to gap Robsu. Robsu struggling, it seems, on those mediums already. It's Josh the Guy now attacking Enchilada to the inside of Decina Delago. Trying to get that one stopped and turned in. He can, but Eng holds it very nicely around the outside, keeping hold of that 3rd place. But he's going to have a tough middle sector ahead of him too, to stay with the 2 Rebels and keep that DRS protection. Robsu able to come a little bit closer as a result of that little skirmish. Big middle sector for Eng, but Kevin, as always, he's going to understeer his way through. He always goes for low wings, and while that helps him immensely on the straights, in these slow speed corners, he just is at an inherent disadvantage to all the cars around him, and he is teetering on the edge of that 1 second again. He does have plenty of battery to use, but can he match Hugo's pace around Jun Shao? The answer to that seems to be just about yes, and again, he hangs on to DRS by a fraction. Enchilanadad has no such good fortune. He's been detached, and he'll have much pressure from some of the drivers behind. Sumo is on the warpath, chasing down Robsu out there on the track, behind Aces as well, attacking Cavalis. This safety car's brought him into contention. He lunges to the inside, and Cavalis is deep, trying to hold it round the outside. He's now under much more pressure from the Haas. They come out side by side, but Aces, with the momentum, gets a fantastic move done. Gets up into 8th position on the road, looking to try and move through further. Josh the Guy gets away, a move done on Enchiladad, runs deep though, and Edge is fighting back to the outside of Ferradura. They're going to run side by side. Is Edge going to fight this one? He's tucked up on the outside. In the end, there's going to be nothing doing there. Robson trying to follow through. Josh threw a lot of entrance speed into Ferradura, and Edge lunges into Essa. Goes side by side again. He's on the outside this time, heading into Pinarino, and it doesn't seem as though he's going to quite have the grip to hold it all the way around. He has to tuck in behind Josh the Guy, and Robson still trying to work his way through, but those medium tyres are going to get progressively worse in comparison, and he is going to run out of grip relative to these guys. He wasn't able to make as much of an impression earlier on. So can he do much in the laps to come? Hugo still leads from Kevin. Kevin is a bit closer this lap. Does he need to take the lead to try and alleviate some of that DRS pressure that he's been putting up with, trying to stay with the man in front? Again, he closes up big time down the straight. He wasn't using his battery either. If he can stay at even just about 6 or 7 tenths out of Jun Shao, he can make that move. He's got such a straight line speed advantage that he can pull that one off. Don't count out Kevin just yet. He's struggled hard to stay in this race, but he is still very much in this battle for the race win with his teammate Hugo. Those guys, I imagine, are going to duel it out all the way to the flag. They now lead by 3 seconds out then, unable to live with them or the group behind. Josh the Guy is taking away that 3rd position and trying to work his way back in, but I think at the moment his priority is going to try and put as many drivers out of that penalty range as possible. Ditto for Sumo, but Sumo does not have the advantage of clean air. He's buried in the pack, and without many opportunities at the moment to work his way past Robso, so he remains in P6. He's one of the losers that has to be said out of this safety car situation. Working against him up at the front, the Red Bulls still in DRS is Kevin. He's going to use a better battery. He's got more battery to use than Hugo too, so even though he was oh so close to getting dropped, he's still piling that pressure on him with 5 laps to go. This may still be anyone's race. Sumo now attacking Robsu, looking towards the Senna S, but doesn't decide to lunge it on the brakes, thinks better of it. Does he have the grip to try and create an opportunity further down the road? Doesn't seem to be that case at the moment. He remains buried down there in P6, gets a good run out of Curva de Sol, but not using that overtake button. You sense if he did, he'd have an opportunity there. Aces behind is still on the move. He's picked off one Kicksauber, looking for another then as he attacks Trico Badayak, and he may be gaining substantially with 2 time penalties up in front of him. He's in with a shout of a top 5 with the pace he's showing, and after going for that one-stop strategy, that would be very much deserved. Only driver in the field to make one stop, and around this track, that is certainly no mean feat. Up at the front, Kevin is under pressure once again. Hugo trying to snap that elastic, the gap, 9/10 of a second, but Kevin recognising the danger. I think he did a big burst of that battery, and he's able to hang on in there. To be honest, if he goes for it, commits it with the battery, he'd be able to get the move done and towards the Senna S, or at least threaten, but he's going to wait his time, I think, as Sumo dropping places down there, heading out of Jun Xiao. Didn't catch the start of that, but Sumo, my goodness, this race is taking a turn for the worse. He's still battling hard down then, getting up and alongside Cavalis, down towards the Senna S. Cavalis later on the brakes, trying to sweep around the outside. These two have had a storied rivalry as well, and they make contact again, as they always seem to do. Cavalis and Sumo may open the door for Jacko, his teammate, to try and work his way back through. Sumo's having none of it. He's back for more to the inside of Descida del Lago, and there's contact once again between the McLaren and the Kicksauber. Jacko does go through, and as it always seems to happen between Sumo and Cavalis, they've come together, and Sumo's race taking yet another turn for the worse as he goes to war with the Kicksauber, but ultimately at the cost of both of their races at the moment. Just over 3 laps to go in the Brazilian Grand Prix. Kevin still battling on. Hugo still putting him to the sword at the moment with all of his phenomenal pace. Kevin, though, he's still threatening. This is as close as he's been out of Jun Xiao. Does he want to go for the move at this stage on the race? 6/10 is the difference between them. DRS is going to be open. Lots of battery being used from Hugo. He must be aware of how quickly his teammate is able to close in a straight line. He gets to within striking distance, and I think that's good enough for Kevin at the moment. He knows when he wants to try and make that move. Trico and Robsu down towards the Senna S. Trico, what a phenomenal drive back it's been for the Kicksauber. He's up 6 places in the race. Did not look like a top 5 was on the cards for a while, but he now runs in that 5th position, and potentially threatening Josh the Guy. Josh the Guy's done an excellent job of working his way away, and he's going to get even more good fortune as Robsu battles back against Trico Badayak as they run side by side up towards Ferradura. Looks like the Kicksauber might just about have the legs for this one. Robsu not deploying his battery in the end. That seems to be crucial as he manages to haul his way back through into 5th position, but out of range at the moment of Josh the Guy's penalty. So it seems as though Josh, at the very least, is going to hang on for a P4 unless he makes another error, and I think that he will certainly take that as Kevin up at the front. Kevin's made a mistake. Kevin's made an error. Maybe out of Biko to Pato. We've seen drivers having errors there, and has Hugo, after applying that pressure every single lap, forcing Kevin to go to the limit to stay in that DRS range. Was that the moment that Hugo ran clear to take this race win? He leads by 1.5 seconds, and maybe, just maybe, that is going to be good for him. Kevin does not have the DRS advantage. Can he, with all of his raw pace, work his way back in? But we know how quick Hugo has been tonight, and he only has 2 laps to bring this one home. He's got the better car in the corners, the higher downforce machine. Kevin closes substantially on the run down towards the Cida del Lago, but can he possibly match the Swede's pace in that middle sector? That's going to be the key. Up in front, Josh the Guy is doing similar work on Enchilada, trying to break away. Maybe, just maybe, oh my goodness, Aces and Robsu going to war down there on the right out of Descida del Lago. Aces does get through ahead of the Williams driver. Didn't catch the start of that one, but that looked to be a very feisty battle with the Haas just coming out in front of the Williams. They swap places out there. Aces still on this charge. It's been a great drive from Aces, I have to say, in this race. had too much thought in driver of the day, but he's certainly going to be a contender. Kevin has done a great job on this lap to get closer, but closer is all he's got. He does seem to have had the pace to threaten somewhat, but Hugo, he's not panicked. He's kept a lot of his battery in reserve, and he knows the only potential run Kevin will surely have from this distance is going to be on the final run to the line. He's not going to be near enough into Descida del Lago. There's no way he can pressure much in that middle sector. He just has to get as near as he possibly can. Both of them using the last of their battery reserves. Kevin needs a phenomenal middle sector to stand any chance because he's drained most of his firepower trying to work his way back in to contention. It's been a great fight between these two in the last stint, but it seems as though in all likelihood it's going the way of Hugo as it stands, looking for a second consecutive win in Tier 2. He does make an error heading through Esse, but he is still a long way out in front. Further back, Enshire did try to mention this on the last lap. Josh, the guy, managing to break away, and he's trying to put him out of penalty distance. I think it's going to be too little too late. Eng will just try and keep his cool. He's always so cool under pressure, and it seems as though he's going to be fine to hang on for a podium place, and richly deserved it would be. But here it is, the final run to the line. Guillaume Hug with a brilliant exit out of Junshao will surely seal it again. He put on an exhibition in Tier 2 and in Tier 1 at Austria Reverse, and he is kicked off exactly where he left off. He wins from his teammate Kevin. A dream start for Hugo and a dream start for Red Bull. They go 1 and 2. Enge, the former champion. Great drive to third position, just holding off Josh the guy. Trico recovers to fifth, just holding off the late charge of Aces. Robs to P7, Jacko recovers to 8th after a messy race from him. Denko too, managing to haul his way into the top 10 and rooms after damage. It does show that even with some of the tumultuous races some of these drivers have had, they're still able to recover into that top 10. Cavalis just pepping Sumo in the end and get another bad-tempered battle between those two. We'll clean up the rest of the results later on in the evening. But yeah, that is round 1. Very much in the books, and let's see how things are going to run further down the line. We'll clear up the results, or hopefully I do have a black screen. Oh, there we go. So yes, it is Hugo taking in another race win. A good battle in the end with Kevin. I do wonder how it would have worked out if Kevin had managed to keep it clean. It seemed as though Hugo had the speed to keep him at arm's length, but Kevin with so much straight line speed may well have been a contender if there was any error from the eventual race winner. That didn't come through in the end. It is a win for Hugo. It is a Red Bull 1-2. I said they were favourites coming into the season, and they have thoroughly backed that up. Joined on the podium too by Enchilada Dad, who, yeah, more often than not seems to just be able to find the best possible result his pace can offer, and that was a P3 on the night tonight. Great drive from all of those podium finishers. So I was hoping to clear up the results, but it doesn't seem I'm going to be able to get it. Let's just see if I can find a little copy of the results. So yes, it was, in the end, Hugo taking the win from Kevin and Enge. Josh the guy heading up, of course, from tier number 3, does an awesome job to P4. Penalty just costing him a podium, but showed terrific pace out there. Trico, a very accomplished P5 from Aces P6, who put on a big show out there, has to be said. Actually, looks like we do. No, we don't have results. Just quite out of the lobby menu. Robsu was P7, Jackalaco P8, then Denko and Runes rounding out the top 10. After that comes Cavalis and Sumo, JB in P13, Lawrence just scraping a couple of points in 14th, and Avenir next in 15th. Heading up the field was Tyr, Uglap and Drogon. So, that should be just about it for this evening again. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm feeling a bit too tired to really pull off any sort of interviews, I'm afraid. I will say, yeah, really entertaining start to the season. I don't know if maybe we're going to see a couple of maybe nerfs getting balanced out. I saw some of you guys talking about that in the chat. That's really one for the league runners, but we'll see if anything is going to change. We're all trying to find that balance. Believe me, what we want most of all in APPF1 is for every tier to be as competitive as possible. So we'll see how we can make that work. Hugo is running with no ABS. Maybe it's not quite enough. We shall see. He showed some incredible pace out there. As for Driver of the day, it's a tricky one. I mean, both those Red Bull drivers certainly very deserving, but I may be thinking about going a little elsewhere on that one because I loved the show that Ace has put on here tonight. He was fighting as well for his teammate Ench and may have been valuable too, and giving him that podium, going long on those hard tyres, and in the end having a phenomenal final stint. I may just give him the nod in terms of the driver of the day, but certainly number of contenders, Hugo would also be a very worthy winner of that prize. But yeah, as you guys could probably hear, my voice is starting to go, so I don't want to hang around for too much longer. Again, should be myself and Ghost together next time out. Hopefully that's going to be a cracker, and yeah, we can get another phenomenal season of Tier 2 action underway. But for myself, Daka, I think that's going to be just about all from now, so until next time, we'll see you later.